Arizona, baby. This is their interview from Arizona.
Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Very spontaneous, but really that's what music is all about. I'm joined by, I got a call from a dear friend of mine, Pete Magadini, up in the Bay Area, and he told me, he said, there's a guy you got to get a hold of, is Bobby Haynes. He was a bass player for Diana Ross, and I gigged with him, and he played with the Crusaders, and was just part of that LA scene that California scene that I dig so much. So I called Bobby tonight, and it's about time we heard his voice. Bobby Haynes, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
All right, thank you very much, Jake. It's my pleasure to be here.
So Bobby, talk a little bit about what's going on in life and music for you right now.
Well, right at the moment, I'm actually putting together a new album, but I'm working on the music. It's not quite ready yet. In fact, it's a little ways from being ready. But other than that, I am still playing gigs, and I have my Sunday brunch that I've been playing for about 8 years out at the Deluxe Bel Air. That's from 11 to 2 on Sundays. And then other than that, I play quite a few casuals and private parties. Not too many clubs, simply because clubs can't afford bands anymore.
I was going to say, what is the scene like from that 11 to 2 slot at the Sunday brunch? Just get me there every weekend. What is that scene like?
Well, it's a really nice little place. It's a small hotel, and they have this brunch on Sundays, and all kind of people come in there, from time to time. It's from the governor and the mayor to Maria Shari, who was there not too long ago, and Della Reese has been in there. Stevie Wonder was there a few weeks ago. So, but meanwhile, my trio, we just play music. We play mostly jazz and some standards and a little bit of blues. The people really appreciate the blues, but the club, since it's a brunch, they kind of like to keep it a little bit more mellow,
Yeah, I tell you, you get the blues and the soul going in there, and it starts to rile people up a little bit, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, but the people who don't like it, they really don't want to hear it for brunch.
Yeah.
And the people who do, but usually there's more people who do like it than don't, and that's really. In fact, sometimes we'll get only hands when we do blues, we'll play all day and we won't get a hand. And we'll play a blues number, I'll sing it, and we'll get a big hand.
Bobby,
people
go ahead.
People do love the blues.
Well, I think in this time when we're having earthquakes in New York City and all sorts of crazy stuff has happened all over the world, I think people resonate, economic hard times, whatever you want to say, you do resonate with sort of that more earthy blues. People are not in a real celebratory mood right now. And I see that even in some of the, in order to support my record show, I sell a lot of records. And I found this mint copy of a Reverend Gary Davis album, which under normal circumstances I would never have sold, but it was in such great shape that I wound up selling it for $100. And as a blues album, people want to hear the blues. People want to hear the blues,
Sure.
But
Gary Davis.
Yeah, Bobby, I gotta. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in L.A. I'm actually from East St. Louis, but my dad was in World War II, so we traveled around with him for a while in Georgia and Texas and a few places, and then we settled in L.A.
I gotta stop you for a second. What are your memories of East St. Louis, Illinois? I need to know about that place.
Well, I was pretty young when I left there, so I really don't know that much about East St. Louis, except it was a very, very rough place to be from. Every week somebody got killed.
It was really that bad.
Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, it was a rough place. But as a kid, of course, you didn't see that. And my immediate relatives and stuff, they didn't seem to be involved in that. They were mostly school teachers and different things, so they weren't involved in the seedy part of East St. Louis, you know. But it's more of that than anything else.
So you really spent your formative years out in Los Angeles.
Right, but back in East St. Louis, I had one uncle who was a bass player.
Oh.
And so he played bass, and another uncle who was a concert pianist. And so they kind of influenced me before I even came to L.A.
Did you know? Did you know that they were influencing you right then, or was it more of a latent thing? Did it only occur later that you realized that, or were you already hooked on music at 7 years old?
Oh no, I wasn't. It came later.
It came later.
Yeah.
Can you
In fact, you know, I wound up being a bass player, but at the time I was back there, I thought the bass was really kind of a nothing instrument. You know, when I saw my uncle play, when they played in the family band and they all would get in the living room and play, I thought the bass really wasn't very much of an instrument. You know, you would have never thought I'd end up playing it and loving it. But you know. Most of my relatives played something, but they only played on an amateur level. So they used to have these family band get-togethers where they play a few songs. And I guess my favorite instrument at the time would have probably been piano, which I played piano for 7 years when I was a kid.
Were you playing Boogie Woogie or Chuck Berry? What were you playing growing up?
What was I playing growing up? Classical music. That's what they taught.
Wow.
That's all they taught. You know, if you take piano lessons, you learn classical music. That's it.
Yeah, there were no other curriculums.
No, any improvisation and stuff you learned on your own. Through different ways. You know, listening to records, or maybe somebody who could play would teach you a few things. But you couldn't get any formal lessons playing anything but classical music. And
so you hopped around to a few different places in your youth. You went down south. Your folks went down there.
Oh yeah, when my dad was in the army, yeah, we were just in the South. As a matter of fact, we didn't go anywhere that wasn't in the South. When I first started traveling, as a matter of fact, too, we just covered the South. We didn't get out of the South, you know. But it was all right.
Can you talk a little? I mean, you know, I would really appreciate for the audience if you could talk about what do you mean you never got out of the South? I mean, is that with mixed feelings? Is there some charm to that? Is there negative connotations? Break that down for us.
No, it's just that well, this is probably skipping quite a bit ahead, you know, in my career. But when I first went out with Percy Mayfield, and it just so happened that Percy, wherever we went was in the South. One time we went to Detroit for a concert, but other than that, all the concerts just happened to be down south. Every one of them, you know, for months, and that seemed to be where most of the gigs were.
Wow.
And it was fine. It was all completely segregated, but it was okay though, you know, because everybody was treated okay where they were, you know.
Right. You sort of, as long as you stayed in your neighborhood, you were cool. It was when you wandered outside of that, then that's when trouble would occur.
Right. Exactly.
I talked to.
There wasn't really that much reason to wander outside of it either. You know, everything you needed was there.
Sure. What was it? Tell me at that point. Because nowadays people can stare at iPhones the entire evening and become total robots. But my question is to you: what did the neighborhood provide that you needed? What were the things what was daily life like in those neighborhoods?
Oh, really good food. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. For good food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and accommodations. Usually you didn't stay in hotels. You stayed in rooming houses more so. Some places had hotels, you know, but more than not, you stay in a boarding house, a rooming house, and it was very nice and friendly. was really excellent, and there'd be other musicians there. So, if not only the musicians in your band, but sometimes other musicians too would be in the same place. So you got to hang out with different guys. And certain cities, this was very popular, like Houston, Texas. And the place we would be in Houston, there would be a lot of musicians there.
Can you talk about Houston? Can you talk? I mean, it's one of those urban set. I think back about in the Roaring '50s and the '60s, the urban centers, the New York, Boston, Chicago, Miami. But then I come to think of Houston, and I think of Houston because of like Melvin Sparks, Leon Spencer, and the Crusaders. But I just wanted to. Could you talk about what made Houston special at that time?
Oh, Houston! A lot of the big stars, rhythm and blues stars,
like,
lived in Houston.
Like who was there? Who was there?
They spent a lot of time in Houston, and the Peacock Studio, the great recording studio, they recorded a lot of rhythm and blues stuff. It was in Houston. And there's a place called the Crystal that was like a hotel and a restaurant, as well as a venue to play in. So that was a big thing about Houston in the Fifth Ward. And then in the Third Ward, they had these wards. I don't exactly know what they meant, but they had the Third Ward and the Fifth Ward, and they were neighborhoods, but I don't know why they call them wards.
Right.
But the Third Ward was another section of Houston where they had black clubs, and Lou Rawls used to be there all the time, and different artists. All of the black artists of the time would be in Houston, and they'd be around if you were there at the right time, they would be right there at the Crystal Hotel, the Crystal Ballroom, I think they call it.
So,
but it was a hotel. I don't know if it's still there or not. It's probably still there, but I haven't been there for many years. And then after a while, we stopped going there and started checking into the regular hotels,
I was going to say, just going back to the neighborhoods for a minute, Bobby, like more and more that I talk to your generation of musicians, it seems like, segregation, it obviously had some very, very harsh undertones and overtones to it, but when the guys talk about the neighborhoods, they talk about a lot of joy and a lot of camaraderie and a lot of love. And it seemed like it was happy, and I'm not sure. We had this whole civil rights movement and this whole desegregation of everything, but I don't get the feeling that those communities, nothing's like that now in the black community.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of truth to that, but people don't want to stay where they are, especially if they see somebody that seems to be doing better. So they had to move on, but there was a lot of advantages to segregation. As far as the unions and so forth. The unions used to be segregated, the black union and the white union, but the black union you got more work. A lot of times once they got together, there were a few advantages, but of course there were certain places that the white unions allowed you to work that you couldn't work if you were just in the black union. So it was progress in a way. For somebody, I was born in 1978, and I just get to read about these things in history books, study them, but I like talking to real people about it, and the idea that. I just think when our country in general has stronger African American communities, better leaders are created during that time. There was more family structure. Faith was used in a very positive way. I remember Mickey Roker telling me that after Sunday sermon, they'd come back and they'd have additional prayer meetings in his grandmother's house in Philadelphia, but all the kids would be up front playing music, and a lot of the people would get on his grandma for getting him off, not letting him pray. And she said, "At least I know where my child is." And
it was these are just really good stories, and because I mean, you know, there's a lot of sociological aspects to it, but when I also just think about the leaders. I wanted to know, when you were growing up in your first, you know, musical early situations, when you were just sort of a kid, starry-eyed and in awe, you know, how you some of the real, like, mentors, the people that came along and said, you know, we see the talent and we're going to work with you to make you as good as you possibly can be. Who were some of those cats?
Yeah, you know, I often wish I had people like that. You know, I've always heard about people guiding people's career and giving them a lot of help and advice and stuff, but unfortunately, I never had that.
Well, okay, so because I you know, it's
I did take private lessons,
right?
But most of my proficiency came from practice, without just practicing the instrument.
Right, exactly. And you so you were down on the bass at 7 years old when your uncle was playing it. But tell me a little bit about how you first became intrigued with the bass, or how you fell in love with it for the first time.
Okay, yeah, that was easy. You know what happened? I went to be in the school band, and the bass player graduated. So the bass was.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Jake Feinberg Show. Our technical difficulties have hopefully subsided. Bobby Haynes, welcome back, brother. You were talking about mentors.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I never had really mentors, but I mean, of course, you know, musicians do get together and hang out and jam and stuff. So I did have musicians, bass players, come by the house, and we would play and exchange ideas. A couple of bass players, Harper Cosby was one. Harper, I don't think he's around anymore, but he actually played with Bird. He was a really good bass player. He actually showed me some things. I couldn't call him a mentor, but he actually showed me some things that I still use today, some bass things. And then Harper, and then Dave Dyson was another guy who used to come by the house and bring his bass, and we would play for a few hours together.
You have to be kidding me. Dave Dyson?
Dave Dyson.
You know, this is a great story. So, Bobby, I promoted a jazz concert in Leimert Park back in mid-July, and it was Henry Franklin, the skipper. And
I know Henry very well, sure.
And Henry, you know, he basically allowed my dream to come true. We had Calvin Keys come down from the Bay Area, and Carl Burnett played drums and things like that. And the night before, we had a rehearsal at none other than Dave Dyson's house.
Right. Really. Dave Dyson.
I loved it.
Dave's been a friend of mine since, I don't know, the 50s, I guess.
Oh, that is so awesome. That guy was such a classic guy, man. I loved hanging out with him.
Wasn't it nice? Well, isn't that, talk about a small world.
Yeah, I just almost fell off my couch. He was, you know, he lives in a really, really cool little, I mean, it's not little. I mean, the ceilings are vaulted, and there's a pool in the back, and this little area to jam in, and the guys were not cutting it loose. They were saving it for the next night, but boy, that was funny, man. That was good stuff.
Isn't that something? Yeah, you rehearsed at Dave's. The guys rehearsed at Dave's house.
What was Dave? Well, tell me about Dave.
Dave used to come.
Yeah, go ahead.
He used to come by, and you know, this guy Dave, he studied with a guy by the name of Scheinberger, who had taught Schillinger, who was one of the main teachers at Juilliard.
Wow.
So Dave had some really good training as a bass player, and he played with some pretty good people too. But,
so Bobby, go ahead.
We used to get together and just jam and play. So, but I can't call him a mentor either. But I can say that we exchanged some ideas.
Yeah, it just was, you know, I don't even mean a mentor like giving a lot of advice. It was more like the idea of going out there with a band. Maybe it was a band, or it was a group of people where not a whole lot was said. It was just.
Well, yeah. Now when you say that, Dexter Gordon comes to mind.
Talk about Dexter.
Yeah, when I was Dexter Gordon, I really was just a kid, and I was I think I was about 21 or 2, and we went up to Seattle and Portland and so forth. So I was on the road with him, and I really wasn't qualified to be in that band. So when Dexter realized that, he started coming to my room and literally teaching me harmony and have me practice different stuff, and he really taught me. And by the fact that he was so good with me, the piano player decided, well, shoot, if Dexter can spend this much time with you, so can I, So he just started taking me over to the hall, teaching me songs.
Who was the piano player?
His name was Jerry Mandel. I don't know where he is. I haven't heard of him for years.
I am. How old was Dexter Gordon when you were playing with him?
I think he was about 30-something. 33.
That to me that's exactly what I'm talking about, is the idea where you have somebody, it's such a classic, that generation of guys, the Sonny Rollinses and the Dizzy Gillespies and the James Moody's and the Dexter Gordons, those guys looked at the younger generation, your generation, and said, really, okay, we're going to mentor these guys, and we're going to do it in a way where we're going to let them know we can do it better, but we're also going to show them how it's done. We're not going to, we're going to build up their confidence because we want to leave this place better than the way we found it. And that to me is such a beautiful thing. It's so much of what we're missing now, not just in music, but in so many different areas of life. It's just this idea that you want to be able to learn from those who somehow had it tougher than you, and then therefore they can teach you how to be a little bit stronger in your life. And now that seems to be, for a variety of reasons, sort of moving away. I wonder, actually, just asking you now, at your age, do you find yourself in that sort of position now where you see a younger bass player, you try to give him some tips, or maybe even feed him a meal or talk to him? Do you have a chance to engage with younger cats like that?
Well, just my grandson, he's picked up bass all of a sudden, and I do try to teach him a little bit, but he wants to go in a more of a hip hop direction. So even not even hip hop, more free. So his style that he wants to do is so much different than mine. Until he's not open to a lot of things that I can teach him.
Yeah, it's the
but other than then there's a couple of other kids, I guess, that I've tried to show things, but I decided that I don't really like teaching. I'm not much of I never had training for teaching, so I think maybe I don't know how to teach.
So you talk a little bit about you get down. What was the first time? What year did you really start to play professional gigs?
Well, let's see. I think that was probably 1954. No, maybe 53. That's where I got out of high school.
And who did you start? And tell me tell us who some of the people you were playing with.
Well, I played with Billy Higgins. Billy Higgins and I, we were about in the same grade, and I used to pick him up, and we went and played these little gigs. Not just the crummiest little beginning gigs, but we were trying. So
please,
Billy always did play good.
Bobby, I'm having another Dave Dyson moment right now, because Billy, to me, Billy Higgins, he's passed, but his soul is inside of me, because I feel all I've heard about Billy, from whether it was Lou Tabakin or whether it was Carl Burnett or anybody. Billy Higgins always had a smile on his face.
He did.
He was one of the warmest.
And he did back in high school too.
Can you talk a little bit about you guys, how you got to be friends, and the kind of trips you guys would go on?
Well, this was we became. We weren't really that good of friends. We just played some gigs together, but we got to know each other from Donald Cherry. Donald Cherry, I guess you know who Donald is anyway, Don Cherry.
Sure.
He played in a band, and he had Billy Higgins in his band. And Don and I went to school together. We went to Fremont High together, and so I met Billy through Don, because we used to jam in Don's garage. Don always did play jazz, even back in high school. He was playing jazz.
Yeah, the loss of Billy Higgins has been heartfelt. In the jazz community, he had that club that's still around called the World Stage over in Leimert Park.
Oh yeah, it's still over there. In Leimert Park.
But I just want to. I believe in just smiling. I mean, the guy was always smiling. I never met the guy, but he's smiling right now.
Yeah, he was one of the true guys that I actually kind of more or less grew up with. Even though we went our separate ways completely professionally, he went to New York with Arnett and so forth, and got hung up in that scene recording, and his life as it was, and mine was here in L.A. and on the road with different people doing different stuff, entirely different from what he was doing.
So talk.
But I always knew him, because I knew him. If you know somebody, you don't get to you don't know him anymore. So the last time I saw him, though, I was booking this club called Spaghettini. Have you heard of that place?
I don't. No, I don't.
Okay, Spaghettini is a jazz club in Seal Beach here in L.A.
Sure.
Well, not in L.A., but Seal Beach. And I used to book the bands in there, and I booked in Harold Land's band. And Billy Higgins was playing drums on the gig.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's the last time I saw him. He had gotten smaller, which was kind of funny to see. When a person actually isn't quite as big as they used to be. Because we used to be pretty much the same size, and then I saw him, but I think he had a liver problem or something like that kind of shrunk him a little bit.
He got down, yeah.
But he played great, though. He did, it didn't affect his playing at all. His playing never went down. As far as I know.
Did you get a chance to play with Harold Land, Bobby Hutcherson, any of those guys?
Yes, I did.
Please talk, Bobby.
Yeah, I played with Bobby Hutcherson many times. Bobby was from Pasadena, and there used to be a club out there called the Dragonwick, a jazz club, and I used to play out there with Bobby Hutcherson, but it was always in somebody else's band. It wasn't his band or my band.
Well, what band was it?
Some saxophone player that nobody ever heard of, or somebody who happened to get the gig, But Charles Lloyd was actually playing those gigs too, though. I mean, he was playing great at that time.
And Ron McClure was his bass player?
Ron McClure, I was a bass player. Ron McClure wasn't the bass player.
You were the bass player for Charles Lloyd. The Bobby Haynes is blowing my mind tonight. You're blowing.
And I'll tell you who was playing bass, Herbie Lewis. Did you ever hear of Herbie Lewis?
I have a few albums with Herbie on it, but I'm not well versed in that.
Yeah, Herbie Lewis used to play the gigs with Bobby Hutcherson and so forth too, because they were all from Pasadena. So Herbie and Bobby Hutcherson, Harold Land, he's from San Diego, but he lived up here in L.A. kind of South L.A. He lived in the same house.
Hey, what happened with? I was curious. Did you know what were the whereabouts of Harold Land's son? I know he was an up and coming piano player back in the '70s.
Yeah, he's still playing piano. He plays great. He's living with his mother and taking care of her, and he goes to places like Japan and Taiwan and places like that and plays gigs out of the country.
What were the?
But he's a great piano player, and he's still playing. Harold Land Jr.
Yeah, Harold Land. I mean, I saw him on this one album with called Coma, and Harold Land's on it. But he talks in the liner notes about how he wanted his son to get a chance to play with what he called veteran musicians, and he brought in Bobby Hutcherson, and he brought in Bill Henderson, and he brought in the drummer Ndugu Chancellor.
Oh yeah, those are great guys. I haven't heard Ndugu for a long time, but Ndugu was a great drummer.
Did you?
Or is maybe? I guess he's still playing.
He's still rocking out.
All those guys, yeah, sure.
Bobby, you definitely. I want to spend some time on the Crusaders because the time period that you spent with them, they were really a very much a straight ahead jazz band, were they not?
Yeah, they were, but it still kind of leaned a little bit to the funk side somehow. I guess because they're from Texas.
Yeah, can you? So how did you meet them? And please talk about the personalities in the band. Wayne Henderson, Styx, Wilton, all those, and Joe Sample. Talk about your relationship with those guys and how you met them. And please, I could sit and listen to it all night.
Okay, well, Styx was the first person that I met, and I met Styx on another gig before they got the Crusaders together. They'd come out from Texas as a group, but they weren't always working as a group. They hadn't gotten together gigs as a group yet. Then they went to Vegas, and they had a chance to make it big as the Nighthawks, and they decided they had a chance at the same time to record for Dick Bach's a Pacific Jazz label.
Right.
So they decided they wanted to try to do the jazz since that's what they really wanted to do. So they gave up the rhythm and blues Nighthawks career that was really catching on in Vegas, and they came back here and recorded, and they got Joe wrote the song called Freedom Sounds, I believe was the name of it.
Yeah,
and it was a hit.
Hey, I got to go back to this Vegas. What do you mean what are the Nighthawks? What is? I'm not even familiar with that. What is that kind of music?
Well, they went to Vegas, and every now and then Vegas and lounges, they book people without names and stuff that they just book groups, and sometimes the groups they catch on and they're a hit. So the Nighthawks were like that. They came here, and they had a chance to go to Vegas and work a steady gig. I don't know what hotel it was at, but they did it, and they were really popular. They were getting ready to cross over into the big time, and they had this chance to record for Dick Bach at the same time. But I didn't hear the Nighthawks. I never heard the Nighthawks. I didn't know them at the time. I had met Styx already, but
can you talk about Styx, man? He's so busy he can't come on my show. Give him a hard time. Talk about Styx, man.
Have you talked to him? Have you talked to Styx?
Man, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's living in Seattle.
He's living in Seattle.
Yeah, he's been there for quite a while.
I've been trying to work through his admin secretary woman, and it's like she won't. He's busy, but she won't help me with these times, and I so badly want to talk to the guy.
I think he'd be happy to talk to you.
All right. Well, we can talk.
We'll get a hold of him.
Yeah. Well, we can.
I didn't get his number though. He called me about a year ago, just out of the clear blue sky, to say hello, and I didn't get his number. I should have. I don't know why I didn't.
Well, how did you?
But he.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's one of those things where Bobby, those guys, I don't know what it was, and you were there. You were in Houston. Those guys, they were so comfortable being themselves. They were so happy with who they were. They were always loving life. And I try to figure out.
Yeah.
And why were these? Why were they? How were they so happy? And who was? I'm sort of beginning to understand now. I mean, this is just sort of my evolution, but I listened to some of their shows, their live shows, and they talk so. They talk to the crowd a lot, and they talk about how beautiful the crowd is, and then Wayne Henderson starts to get involved.
Yes, mostly Wayne. Yeah, mostly Wayne does the talking. Used to at least in the Crusaders. Yeah.
And just can you talk about how their personalities were almost larger? I mean, it's hard to say this, but their personalities really embellished that music because their hearts were so big.
Yeah, well, Wayne was the more talkative of the group, and he was. All the guys were musically literate, I mean, they were all there. Went to college and they studied music, so and they practiced and learned how to circular breathe and so forth, practicing in the garage. At least Wayne and Wilton did, and like Wilton was just nice, kind of quiet guy. He was from older parents. I mean, his parents were a lot older than the rest of the guys' parents, so he was raised a little different, a little more sheltered or something, but he was just a little quieter. And none of the guys, incidentally, none of those guys were into any kind of drugs at all. And as far as I know, they still aren't.
That's great because
I mean, no kind of drugs, not pot, not coke, not anything, just to drink every now and then, you know.
Yeah, no.
Drugs, but they did drink.
You know, you get the feeling that they were playing. They were all the Dick Bach, years were really fascinating. What was when you were hot, they brought you in right away? At what point did they bring you in?
No, at first, the first recording bass player they had was Jimmy Bond. And I think Leroy may have recorded one album with him, so Leroy Vinegar. But Jimmy Bond was the bass player, and they just found themselves somehow without a bass player, and Styx remembered me, you know, because, like I said, I'd met him before on another gig. So we got together with Styx and I, and then we made rehearsals I started making rehearsals, and we started working. Our first gig was in Chicago, in Sutherland. How did
you, that's really awesome. Styx he was the guy who, I mean, he pulled you up. How did he know that? I mean, where did that come from? How you guys were pretty good friends. And
Styx was the leader, even though they never said that. They called it a corporation, and they were equal. But Styx was the guy who took care of all the business, and he got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and went and did radio interviews and stuff, and he really worked harder than anybody else for the same amount of money. But I think maybe that may have caused dissension after a while, but not while I was there, but later on, because it just seemed like he was doing too much. And nobody else seemingly wanted, or maybe they didn't know how to. Maybe they didn't know. Yeah, they weren't interested. All they wanted to do was play. You know, I mean, me too. You know, I wasn't interested in taking care of the business part of music. You know, that's for agents and managers and stuff. Which they had that too, you know, but Styx still had to do a lot of it. They had management and agents to book the gig. Otherwise, we couldn't have been in Chicago and the places that we were. So they had the booking agents because they had the hits on the radio.
Well, I mean, even tonight, I found myself with my daughter having a dance party to their 1972 album, The Second Crusade. I realized you were gone at that point, but just they're just splashing colors all over the place. I mean, it's amazing. It's great that you brought up the drugs thing because I would have, I wouldn't have assumed that, but their music had such a psychedelic edge to it. Yet they weren't.
Well, so many at that particular time, everybody was into that, So it was kind of expected that they would, but they just didn't, They hadn't been out there with other musicians that they were influenced like that. They'd been together most of their career, and none of them did anything, So, and they put down the guys who did,
Yeah, they got rid of them real quick.
Oh yeah, you couldn't do that.
So did you have a chance to play with Arthur Adams too?
I never played with Arthur Adams.
Okay, because
I know who he is, but no, I never played with him.
So talk a little bit.
He did play with the Crusaders. At the time I played with the Crusaders, actually, they never used a guitar except Roy Gaines had come out, had been their guitar player when they first got started. But other than that, they didn't use a guitar. It was just the five pieces. The four Crusaders and the bass player. That's what it was.
And what were the early venues? When you guys would cut one of your albums, would you go out and tour locally, like at the Baked Potato, or what kind of places would you go in Cali to tour?
Oh, at the time it would be like maybe Shelley's Manhole.
Oh, right on.
And San Francisco would be the Jazz Workshop.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
And Chicago would be the Sutherland.
So you obviously you know who H. Warren is.
H. Warren.
H. Warren he was this maniac who came into the jazz workshop in the I want to say in the 50s or the 60s, and essentially he was the manager of the jazz workshop for a long time. I assume that because it seemed to coincide with that. I ran in, he's down in Southern California now, but maybe you don't.
He may have been there when I was there, but I don't know who the manager was because I don't ever know who any of the managers are, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know who was managing the jazz workshop when I was there. He was there, I'm sure, but I don't know his name or anything.
What did you?
I didn't have anything to do with that. I was just with the musicians, and Sticks would know now. But that's it. That's what I mean. Sticks would take care of all the business.
Right. You just leave it to Sticks.
Right. We just went to the dressing room and came out and went on the stage and played. And we didn't know anything about the management or anything. It was our business.
I love it.
It was our business, but
it's so good, Bobby. It's so good to talk to you and get this insight, man. You basically are painting a picture of exactly what I figured Houston and the kind of pedigree and the kind of people they just wanted to play. They cared about the craftsmanship. They cared about working hard, but they really didn't.
Oh yeah, and Joe was tremendous. He used to have a silent piano, the keyboard, and he would, like in the band and stuff, when we would be working on the road, he would just practice on that thing for hours and hours and hours, like 10 hours, 12 hours, on the silent keyboard.
Can you explain how you practice on a silent instrument?
He said he could hear it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. He said he could hear it.
So what like you?
It's a piano.
You found yourself.
But he would play. He practiced on it for hours and hours. Just you'd hear this little. And but other than that, he was kind of a quiet guy. He's still around, I don't know where he's living right now, but a few years ago, I was at a club called Nucleus Nuance up in Hollywood, and Joe used to go in there. So we actually played together one night there for a couple of songs.
Is Wilton still around too?
Wilton's still around, but I think I read where Joe's back in Houston, and he's got his own group, and they go out on the road and work and stuff. But he's living in Houston. Joe Sample is? I guess Wayne is still here in town, and I don't know where Wilton is, but like I said, Sticks is in Seattle. It's really spread out. I guess they're still on good terms.
I don't know, man. That is, dude, that is my mission, Bobby. That's got to be our mission to bring that group back for one hurrah, man. That's not a good way to go out.
Yeah, well, that's what happens a lot with music. Guys, they play together for a while, and then they don't play together anymore.
Did you have other situations in your career you can relate to something like this, where you were you were with the Crusaders for several years, but what was your longest tenured band that you were with?
The longest band I was with was probably John Mayall. Most of my gigs up until that time had been 3 or 4 years, and I was with Mayall for 6.
What years were you? What years were you in Mayhall's group?
I was from 84 to 90.
Okay, please, Bobby, please take me through what the sound. I don't have any John Mayall albums from that time. I'm not sure if there were any made.
We made a couple of albums when I was with him. We made maybe 4, but the music at that time was more like the Buddy Guy type of blues. It was straight ahead blues.
How was he?
No jazz, nothing but straight ahead blues.
It was that simple.
With sometimes 2 guitar players, and sometimes John played guitar too, He plays guitar, harmonica, and keyboard. Most of the time, he's at the keyboard.
Well, I have a lot of respect for that guy because I remember I have a bunch of his albums from like Whiskey a Go Go, and he's pulling in Victor Gaskin and Blue Mitchell and.
Oh yeah, Vic was a good friend of mine. Vic had been with him before me. That's right.
Yeah.
Victor Gaskin. I don't know where. I think I heard he died.
He passed, but like Ernie Watts was like all those Southern California, guys who flourished with Motown moving out there and jazz moving out there. Mayall always incorporated those and got himself involved too. And I have a tremendous. I really love that guy a lot. He's great.
Yeah, I used to specialize in getting good guys. A lot of band leaders. Chico Hamilton used to do that too. They got the best guys, and those guys put over the band. So
did you get a chance to become friendly with any of the Montgomery brothers?
Yeah, I knew Monk very well.
Can you talk about Monk, please? Monk to me was another guy, I guess another Styx Hooper, another Bobby Haynes, another pillar of humanity.
Yeah, Monk was a bass player who he played electric bass when nobody else was playing electric bass. As a matter of fact, he played electric bass in Lionel Hampton's band when nobody was playing electric bass. But Monk was playing electric bass, and he was really good on electric. He had his own style on electric, but he kind of wanted to play upright, and he ended his career and his life as an upright player. But for years and years, he played electric bass, and a lot of guys at the time ridiculed him for playing electric because pure jazz purists didn't recognize electric bass as a true bass. It was like a guitar. So, but he played so good until he was able to overcome it to a certain degree. But then after a while, I noticed he just was playing upright bass again. As a matter of fact, he called me and he was trying to get his tone together on upright bass because it's different playing upright than electric.
Can you talk talk about that? Talk about how when you say he was trying to get his tone back, what does that mean?
Right. Well, on upright bass, you need tone. The way you press on the strings and pluck the string, you got to do it in such a way that you get tone out of the instrument. Otherwise, it's just a thud, a thump, a thud. So guys are working on that a lot when they play upright bass. It's getting a nice, pure sound. I found it for myself, humming along with what I played really gave me a good smooth sound. And I got that from Oscar Peterson. I heard somebody ask him why he hummed when he played, and he said because it gave him a more legato feeling. And I found the same thing worked on bass for me, so I usually hum. Only problem with humming is you do run out of breath. So you gotta get a really good breath control. Or if you start to run out of breath, you may slow the tempo down because you're running out of breath. So